Right, so evening and welcome. My name is Bruce, and this evening really what I'd like to do is take us through some concepts. If you're on this webinar, it's probably because, like me, someone sent you some videos that shared broad brushstrokes and broad concepts like Bitcoin and crowd mining and the industry that we're obviously looking to get our toes into and really get started on. My job tonight is to add more information. Really, it's to educate you further. And if you're like me, you've probably got more questions off the back of those videos. And so I'm hoping that tonight I can answer some of those questions. And so we're going to dive straight into it. I won't take longer than 40 minutes. We're going to look at the concept of crowd mining with a little more detail. And we're going to look at it through the lens of Bitcoin specifically. And the reason being is if we can understand Bitcoin, which is the oldest cryptocurrency and probably one of the most easiest to understand, then we can take that same information and we can put it across the whole industry and really get a grasp for what we're doing. Now, I'm going to launch off the back of a video mashup. And on this video mashup, you're going to see top business owners, top economists giving their predictions and sharing their excitement around Bitcoin specifically. Now, some of their predictions you will know Bitcoin has already surpassed, and some of them sound absolutely outrageous. But when you understand the mechanics behind Bitcoin, the blockchain, then you start understanding why some of these predictions are taking place. And so really, I want us to have a listen to this mashup video, and then I'm going to launch off the back of that, and we're going to explore some of the idea and concept behind the mechanics of it, the actual blockchain.
Bitcoin and things like it is the equivalent of the red pill. Okay? We are entering a completely world of uncharted water right now.
Have you made any investments in Bitcoin?
So, I mean, I own Bitcoin in my hedge fund. I own Bitcoin in my fund. I own Bitcoin in my private account. It is a huge deal. It's a huge, huge, huge deal. Because what you're talking about right now is for the next 3 to 5 years, an unbelievably better store value. It is gold 2.0.
I think this is a currency that's really going to work eventually.
Well, I think it is working, and there will be other currencies like it that may be even better. But in the meantime, there's a big industry around Bitcoin, and people have made fortunes out of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, there is no Bitcoin company, there is no Bitcoin building, there's not even a Bitcoin server anywhere that you could shut down. It is completely distributed. That's what's unique about Bitcoin. It is, for the first time, a way for the two of us to exchange value online without a third-party intermediary. Until the invention of Bitcoin, for you and me to exchange money online, we had to employ a third party, like PayPal, like Visa, like MasterCard, right? And we live in the 21st century. If we want to have a video call to China, we can do that for free. But to send a couple $100, which is essentially just ones and zeros being moved around, costs 5% plus it takes over a day.
Bitcoin is exciting because it shows how cheap it can be. Bitcoin is better than currency in that you don't have to be physically in the same place, and of course for large transactions currency can get pretty inconvenient.
You'll see Bitcoin trading at 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Rick Falkvinia does an excellent analysis. He predicts that Bitcoin will capture between 1 and 10% of the global Forex market, which implies a price of between $100,000 to $1 million per Bitcoin. Most of the people who are on the sidelines not buying Bitcoin today will start to buy Bitcoin when it gets over 1,000, and then a greater percentage of people will definitely plow into Bitcoin when it starts to get over 10,000.
It's still predicting Bitcoin, $10,000 per Bitcoin in 3 years.
Casares, he is the CEO of Zappo, which is a Bitcoin wallet and Bitcoin vault.
I think it's mostly a very positive thing. I think we're going to see ups and downs like with any other emerging technology, but I think Bitcoin is here to stay, and it makes sense that it be taxed and treated like any other.
So let's make a bold call here. In 10 years, what do you think Bitcoin will be worth? One Bitcoin?
Between $500,000 and $1 million.
A lot of people are just seeing the charts and thinking, how high will it go? What I'm doing is counting backwards. I mean, this is a transactional currency, and it is a store of value. As such, it is a product and a service competing on a very tangible market for stores of value and for transactional currencies. So what is the size of that market?
Right, and this is important.
And how big a market share can Bitcoin realistically take within a foreseeable? When you ask that question, then you come up with a market cap of Bitcoin total, and then you divide that by the number of Bitcoin in circulation by your estimated time, and seeing how Chinese are buying Bitcoin like crazy, I actually had to adjust this number upwards, but then you come up with a number of about $2 to $5 million per Bitcoin.
I suggest that everyone go back to buy one Bitcoin. Not too much, only one is enough. If everyone in this world, people, just to go back by one Bitcoin, you know, the Bitcoin value go to the $1 million. When the Bitcoin have $1 million, you know, all around the world will be crazy, and everyone will be the follow, and other digital currency just to be, you know, be grandson of the Bitcoin. So for me, I think for a lot of people, they don't exactly understand why Bitcoin.
Is Bitcoin the currency of the future, or is it the payment system they're developing?
Bingo! It's the payment system. It's the blockchain encryption, and they're interesting things. I think Bitcoin, or the really blockchain encryption that's behind it, has a greater ability to bring more of the world's population out of poverty than anything we've seen.
If you're new to Bitcoin, take your time to go out there and Google it and learn about it. It truly is one of the most important inventions in the history of humankind, and certainly the most important invention since the internet. Go out there, make a Bitcoin wallet, get involved, start using it, learn about all the positive ways in which this is going to improve the lives of every single person on the planet. Get involved, do it today. It's going to help everybody. Thank you.
So guys, you've got these really big names in different industries making these really big claims, and essentially they're making them because they understand the mechanics behind Bitcoin, i.e. the mechanics of the technology called blockchain. And Steve Forbes actually touches on this when he asked Brian Singer the question. He says, is Bitcoin the currency of the future, or is it the payment system? And Brian Singer's answer is, bingo, it's the system, it's the technology, it's blockchain. You see, blockchain is changing how the internet works. Up until now, the internet has been one giant photocopy machine. And that seems like a good thing, but it's not. It's not a good thing when it comes to money being moved. It's not a good thing when intellectual property needs to be moved. You see, if I send you a contract, you've got the contract, but I've still got it on my server in my sent items. If I send a patent or a program or any piece of information that is sensitive or has ownership, the internet duplicates it. Well, with blockchain, it's slightly differently. You see, blockchain can actually track the movement of the true ownership of any intellectual property. That's what blockchain does. And Bitcoin happens to be a byproduct of that with a very specific function. It's meant to be a currency and store of wealth, and that's all it's designed to do. Now, when Bill Gates' team back in 2009, 2010 looked at the blockchain technology behind Bitcoin, Bill Gates tasked his team with breaking it. He tasked his team with corrupting the blockchain, proving that it's not safe, it's not immutable, it can't do what it says it can do. And here's what happened. They failed. And Bill Gates, along with Richard Branson, along with that youngster that you saw at the end of that video, Roger Ver, they became the first angel investors into some of the first startup companies that set themselves up around Bitcoin. Companies that started wallet facilities, cold vault facilities, exchanges, the ecosystem that's needed for something to thrive. And we're 9-10 years down the track now, and that ecosystem's in place, and we're seeing Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies entering the market. But understand that Bitcoin has a very specific function. Now, Bitcoin essentially is just one more part of the evolution of money. 6,000 years ago, we were in the bartering system. 3,000 years ago, coins were introduced. In the 17th century, we replaced those with notes, just pieces of paper. In the 1950s, the first diner club card was used, plastic. It took 60 years for the globe to adopt that. Now, in my lifetime, we've seen travelers' checks, checkbooks. We've seen online banking, mobile app banking, and now you can walk into most coffee shops here in South Africa and take a photo of something called a QR barcode and pay for your goods. You know, that's the evolution of money, and Bitcoin is just the next step in that evolution. Now, the exciting thing about Bitcoin is that its value is dictated by supply and demand. That's much like coastal property and gold, simply because Bitcoin is finite in value. There's only so much coastal property around the world. There's only so much gold in the earth that can be mined out. Well, the same is true for Bitcoin. There's only 21 million Bitcoin. And just about every other cryptocurrency out there has a finite value too, simply because one of the mechanisms that drives the value behind cryptocurrencies is supply and demand. The second interesting thing about Bitcoin is that its rate of release is controlled. Built into the blockchain algorithm is a controlled rate of release. Now that means in the first 4 years of Bitcoin's history, 50 Bitcoin were released every 10 minutes. In the next 4-year period, 25 Bitcoin were released every 10 minutes into the economy. And we're currently sitting in a 4-year window period where 12.5 Bitcoin are being released into the Bitcoin economy every 10 minutes. Now, obviously that'll halve again in 2020 and halve again, et cetera, et cetera. Why or how that should excite you is that the fact that there's a controlled rate of release built into the algorithm, built into the mechanics of Bitcoin, means that at no stage can someone just flood the market and devalue the Bitcoin in it. Okay? Much like the central banks have done. We call that inflation. That's not the case with Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin produced. The last Bitcoin will be produced in the year 2140, and the rate at which they are released or produced into the economy is controlled according to the mechanics of it, the algorithm. Now, what I particularly like about Bitcoin and most cryptocurrencies, not all, but most, is that Bitcoin is owned by no government. Living here in South Africa, we've seen quite a few government decisions that have been bad. Okay, just over the border in Zimbabwe, we saw a small table of men make a really bad decision, which plummeted the Zimbabwe economy into a downward spiral and made their currency worthless. We saw the same thing happen in Venezuela, and we saw the same thing happen in Greece. With Bitcoin, that's not possible because it's not owned by government. It's also owned by no single corporation or bank. And again, we can think of examples of major bankers here locally in South Africa, banks like Perm back in the 90s, AfriBank in the early 2000s, even just corporations like KPMG, big global corporations who regionally have made bad decisions and have affected millions of people's lives. Well, that's not the case with Bitcoin. It's 100% decentralized and it's user controlled and verified. In other words, it's owned by the community who uses it. And that's a good thing. That means there's accountability within the community. And that's what mining is, and we're going to get into that in a moment. Now, with Bitcoin, you've got a currency, digital cryptocurrency, behaving the way our money used to behave. You see, most currencies around the world used to be backed by the gold reserve, backed by something that was finite. And so our dollars, our pounds, our euros, our rands were considerably stable. After World War II, the globe basically was bankrupt. It had gone through 2 great wars in a very short period of time. And America essentially took their dollar off the gold reserve and based it on future profits and future projections in order to create a massive economic explosion. And it worked. It worked so well that in 1971, Nixon officially wrote the dollar off the gold reserve, and we had our first fiat currency born. And since then, every other currency has followed suit. South Africa followed suit in the early 90s. That means none of our money is backed by anything. And since then, we've had inflation. Okay, inflation is a new problem. It's not the way money should behave. It's a 70-year-old problem. Well, Bitcoin doesn't behave like that. You see, Bitcoin behaves the way money used to behave when it was backed by gold. Because of supply and demand and its finite number, Bitcoin is growing in value over time. And that's good for you and I if you're in the cryptocurrency space, if you're in the Bitcoin space. Now, if you go and do your research, and I encourage you to go home and do it, a great resource to use is something called blockchain.info. It's at the bottom of your screen there. You can write it down, blockchain.info. It's a website that measures market cap, value of cryptocurrencies, number of transactions in a day. If you're excited about data analytics and graphs, etc., if that's your thing, you will love this website. But Nicholas Carey, the CEO of blockchain.info, says this. He says, Bitcoin is only now starting to enter the investment phase where venture capitalists and hedge funds, financial firms are looking at it. How do we know that? Well, we saw Japan in 2017, April, adopt Bitcoin as a dual currency alongside the yen. We saw the New York Stock Exchange introduce an index in May 2017. We saw the Chicago Board of Exchange introduce the futures in December 2017. We saw JP Morgan denounce Bitcoin in September 2017 and then be one of the largest buyers in October 2017. We've seen Goldman Sachs starting to adopt blockchain technologies into their investment portfolios. And we've seen a lot of those big firms bleed out top CEOs into the cryptocurrency space because they see the value in it, they see the mechanics behind it, and they see the movement in asset management heading that way. So let's have a little look at why why they're moving and what they're seeing. Currently, right now, we're still in the earliest days of cryptocurrency. If you go and look at the number of people who own cryptocurrency wallets, in other words, wallets on their phones or hard drives that allow them to exchange cryptocurrencies, there are only between 50 and 100 million people globally. That's about 0.6 of the globe's population has currently adopted cryptocurrencies. 0.6 of 7 billion people have adopted it. So we're in the earliest of days. Now, where would you like to be in any product adoption curve? Imagine 30 years ago, someone had said to you, cell phones, mobile phones are going to change how we do business. Would have been a really good time to get involved. Well, we've got that happening right now with blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Now, if you look at cryptocurrencies, if you look at Bitcoin, there are only really 3 ways to create wealth. Okay, the first way is to buy Bitcoin and sit on it, hold it. That's a long-term strategy. That would be similar to buying a house in a prime area and allowing the value of that house to grow. The one problem with that strategy is that you never ever increase the actual Bitcoin you own. It's not like you've increased the amount of houses you've bought. All you've done is you've bought one and you've waited for the value to climb. So that's one strategy, but I don't think it's a perfect strategy. The second way to create wealth through Bitcoins is to trade them. Buy them low, sell them high. Wait for another dip, buy them low, sell them high. And slowly, incrementally increase the amount of Bitcoins, the amount of cryptocurrencies you own. Now, that is a high-risk strategy. It does take a certain amount of skill, it takes a lot of time, and it takes a good control of your emotions. Now, the reality is about 2% of traders actually make a profit. And so if you have no skill in this space, my advice to you is stay away from it. It's high risk. Okay, there is money to be made, but it is high risk. I think the more sustainable strategy, the strategy that the everyday person can get involved in, is mining. I think every person can create a mining portfolio and create a long-term strategy to create wealth out of that. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. I'm going to be talking about crowd mining and how to mine cryptocurrencies over a long period in order to create a strong asset base. So what is mining? Well, let's have a quick look at this video. I'm hoping it gives us some keywords and we're going to launch off the back of that. So have a listen to this.
So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a revolutionary technology that enables a new way to send payments over the internet. You can think of it as an open accounting system where thousands of computers all over the world work together to track ownership of digital tokens called Bitcoins. When you send someone Bitcoins, the transaction is broadcast to the entire network. After it's verified, it's recorded in a public ledger called the blockchain. The blockchain contains a record of every Bitcoin transaction that has occurred since the system began, and it's shared and maintained on the network, so everyone keeps the books, so to speak. Most currencies are issued by a central authority that controls the money supply. Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer system, so there is no central authority. Instead, Bitcoins are issued to users who help process transactions in the network. This is known as Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin miners are specialized computers that do the work required to verify and record transactions in the blockchain. As a reward for their work, the miners earn Bitcoins, and this is how new Bitcoins are released into circulation. The system is programmed so that only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist, and as time goes by, the mining reward decreases. The result is a predictable supply that's governed by scarcity, making Bitcoin somewhat like a digital gold. It's the first currency of the internet, and everyone is free to use it. With Bitcoin, you can send any amount of money to anyone, anywhere in the world, as easily as sending an email.
So guys, did you hear that the key phrase there is blockchain? And blockchain essentially is a decentralized, open, transparent accounting system, a way of tracking true ownership globally. So let's just wrap our heads around this for a moment. I want you to picture a village 500 years ago in England. Now, every village or town in England had a town square, a common marketplace where people would gather to do their business. So John goes to Jane in the marketplace and pays Jane with coins to buy a cow. Now, the whole marketplace, the whole village would have witnessed that transaction. And so at no stage can John claim that the money and the cow is his, okay? Because the whole village has seen that John has exchanged money for the cow. The cow now belongs to John, and Jane now has the money. That's called a distributed, transparent ledger system. We'll take that same concept and apply it to today. Slightly different story. John lives in South Africa, Jane lives in the UK. John wishes to buy a handbag for his wife from Jane's shop in the UK. So he goes online, he finds the shop, he enters his credit card details, he pays for it. Now in that transaction, it's not a decentralized transparent system. It's only Jane's bank, John's bank, and probably Visa or MasterCard verifying that transaction. Slightly different story. John lives in South Africa, Jane in the UK. John goes on, finds Jane's shop, sends Jane Bitcoin from his phone, from his Bitcoin wallet. Jane receives it 10 minutes later. In that story, according to the video we've just seen, a whole community that owns computers all verify the transaction, come to the same conclusion, and then ledger it. That X amount of Bitcoin moved from John's wallet across to Jane's wallet at this specific time. What you've got in blockchain is a decentralized, transparent ownership model, accounting system. And it's big. It means that we can send patents, we can send programs, we can send intellectual property, music, videos, movies from one place to another, and the true ownership of that asset can be tracked and therefore monetized. And you cut out the middleman. That's what blockchain is doing to the internet. It is completely changing it. Now, currently, globally, there are about 28 mining companies or mining pools that verify these transactions effectively. Yes, there will be people who have plugged in computers in their garages and their small warehouses or in their homes, but I'm talking about major operations that have a big enough footprint to verify transactions effectively. And there are only 28. Now, of those 28, anybody who has a footstep or a capacity at 5% or more, they're in a good position. Anybody who's in 5% or less, they need to grow fairly quickly. Now, our company, our mining company, mines through something called Slush Pool, which currently is one of the 3rd largest pools globally. So who is our company? Who's our mining company? Our company is Lifestyle Galaxy. Guys, when you do your due diligence on Lifestyle Galaxy, if you're like me, okay, and I did my due diligence, you're likely to hit one of 6 blogs. And here's what those 6 blogs say. And I want to put this out there so no one finds these by surprise. The blogs either say that David Martin isn't a real person, he doesn't exist. Or it says that he does exist, but he's dead. Or it says that he does exist, but that he just steals people's money through a Ponzi scheme. Or he does exist, but he's failed at 3 companies and taken people's money. Those are what those 6 blogs say. I know, because in February 2017, I read those blogs whilst doing my due diligence. So let me tell you what I've done since then. I've traveled to the States. I've met David Martin and Ken Bruff. I understand the history of the company, and I know that it's real. Here's what I couldn't find whilst doing my due diligence. I couldn't find one single article written by anybody on the internet that has ever been with David Martin's company and lost money. So please, guys, do a real due diligence, get the facts, okay, because this is an incredible company to partner with. So I want to give you a snapshot of what they've done in the last 9 years. David Martin originally started the company under the brand Smart Media Technologies, and the original product was a social media platform, similar to Facebook. It was called Yobson. Now, Yobson didn't do it very well. We all know Facebook did well. And so together with Ken Bruff, David Martin transitioned the company into the online gaming space. It's a $54 billion industry, and the company did really, really well there. Whilst looking at blockchain technologies for games, they came to the conclusion that it would make sense to set up a crowd mining operation too. And so in March 2016, the company opened its doors and started a crowd mining operation. So what model did they use? Well, let's look at what a crowd mining operation is and how they've been so effective. Essentially, David Martin and Ken Bruff and our CFO, Randy Prince, went and found the largest mine in North America, who've been mining since 2011, and they partnered with these guys to create a turnkey mining operation or mining opportunity. And they've adopted the decentralized ownership model in order to do this. So what is a decentralized ownership model? Well, I want you to think about Uber for a moment. Uber is a prime example of a decentralized ownership model. Uber is the largest taxi company in the world, and yet it owns no cars. What Uber did was they set up a massive infrastructure that allowed everyday people to take their assets, their vehicles, plug it into that infrastructure, and monetize it. The vehicles are owned by the crowd. The infrastructure is owned by Uber. That's a decentralized ownership model. Let's look at Airbnb. Airbnb goes and sets up an infrastructure and becomes the largest accommodation company globally, and yet it owns no property. Well, how's it achieve this? It set up an online infrastructure that allowed everyday people to register their homes, their spare rooms, their cottages, and monetize them. Who owns the property? The crowd does, the people do. Who owns the infrastructure? Airbnb. Well, Lifestyle Galaxy did the same thing with Galaxy Mining. They set up the online infrastructure, they partnered with the warehousing infrastructure, and allowed everyday people like you and me to bring our mining assets, our supercomputers, our processors, plug it into that infrastructure, and monetize it. Now, who owns the hardware? Who owns the computers? The crowd. Who owns the infrastructure? Galaxy Mine. That's a decentralized ownership model. We call it crowd mining, and we think it is the best way to disrupt and increase presence in an industry. And we think it works because Uber achieved it, Airbnb achieved it, and we've achieved some very aggressive growth in the last 24, 25 months. So, having said that, what makes Galaxy Mining stand apart other than the fact that it's the only crowd mining operation we know of? Well, the fact that Galaxy Mining doesn't just mine Bitcoin. Guys, yes, Bitcoin's exciting. Yes, it's the highest value cryptocurrency. Yes, it is the oldest cryptocurrency. But I want you to remember that its application is very specific. It's very niche. It's designed to be a store of wealth and currency, and that's it. And yet blockchain allows so much more. Blockchain allows the movement and tracking of intellectual property, patents, programs, contracts, music, movies, any information that needs to be tracked, owned, and monetized, blockchain allows. And so we're seeing altcoins, alternative coins, or other cryptocurrencies, taking that technology and using it. And we've seen a currency called DentaCoin, which essentially is it's a cryptocurrency that takes dental patents, locks it into blockchain, and allows massive companies to buy that technology and for the owners of it to be paid out correctly. That's what DentaCoin does. It's very niche in its application. We're seeing Ethereum, a smart contracting blockchain that allows patents and programs to move information. In fact, it's so successful that IBM and Microsoft are some of the biggest financial backers behind that altcoin. And Galaxy Mine, Lifestyle Galaxy have identified this. And so we have an infrastructure set in place that allows us to take advantage of that. I want you to picture for a moment custodians of the internet, because that's essentially what we're invited into through this. So one of the other things that sets Galaxy Mine apart is transparency. Our company is currently compliant in 33 countries and territories globally and growing. Because we own the equipment, the company opens its doors to the owners to go and visit the different sites, go and see our equipment. That's a couple of photos from 2017 November's visit. We had 33 countries represented. And it's just it's one more step, one more way that the companies make themselves transparent. But here's what the inside of a warehouse looks and sounds like. Have a listen to this video.
I'm very privileged and excited to be staying outside one of our mining facilities. So this is one of our facilities. What I want to say to everyone, everything that you see inside here now, everything, and this is just one of our facilities, everything inside here belongs to Galaxy Mine, previously known as Dragon Mine. Okay, and it's been a huge privilege for us to be here, freezing cold. So what I'm going to do is quickly take you inside and show you some stuff. It's going to be very loud inside. Over here you can see some of the cooling systems, the fans that suck the air in to keep it cool. I'm going to take you inside, and I'm not going to say much, but it's very loud inside, guys. But just know that this is very real. Now let's go show you the real. Come. So if you're looking over here, these are all the GPUs that are mining our altcoins. And as Tony said, at the top here, those are the ant miners, which is mining your Bitcoin. Tony, let me just say, your Bitcoin, your alt currencies. And when you understand how powerful this is, you'll understand that each one of these belongs to someone in our community. Each one of these belongs to someone in our Galaxy mining community. That is incredibly powerful. But I'm just going to show you a couple of $1 million worth of mining equipment. There are literally thousands here. Hey Tony? Thousands of racks. Thousands of racks, guys. I mean, thousands of equipment and racks and racks and racks. Look at all this. And miners up there again. So it's very loud inside here, and I don't want to make this video too long. But just know, this is yours. This is yours. And we're just getting started. So when anyone ever says to you, is it real? Guys, look.
So guys, that's what the inside of one of the warehouses look like. The company is also creating something called eco pods, which are smaller warehouses that are easier to cool. You can create a larger footprint, and it's just one more way that the company is creating a less risky and yet more efficient model. So the company is growing and growing with the industry. Now, how can you get involved? How does the average Joe get involved? Well, firstly, there is a $600 registration fee to plug into our infrastructure to get access to the company. Now, that $600 is super important because the one thing it does is it keeps our company debt-free. Our company is debt-free and effectively crowdfunded. We're paying forward, we're paying ahead of the growth of the company, and that's a good thing. It means we're not a shareholder company and there's no investors who own us. Okay, we essentially have partnered with a debt-free, decentralized ownership model, and that should really excite you. So once you've paid that $600 fee, and for some of you in some territories, speak to your sponsor, find out if there's a special running, because sometimes there is, and it's only $400. But once you've paid that once-off fee of $600, it's then up to you how much equipment you want to buy and plug into the warehouse. Now, the company runs a drop shipping model that allows you to buy equipment, and the company will purchase it on your behalf directly from our Chinese supplier, who then ships it into the States. It takes 15 days for that equipment to ship in. You can buy $500 worth of equipment, $1,000, $2,000 worth of equipment, $2,500, $5,000, $10,000, and multiples of. It's all up to you how much equipment you want to own. You can also add to your mining capacity. You can buy more equipment as you go without having to pay that once-off fee ever again. And remember, that equipment belongs to you. You get a certificate of ownership, which is essentially a contract in place that proves ownership of machinery that is legally binding. Okay. Now, what I did recently is I took 2 screenshots of 2 small mines, okay, $500 mines. I took a screenshot of a $500 Bitcoin mine that went live in July 2017, and I took a screenshot of a $500 multi-mine or GPU unit that went live in July 2017. We're currently looking at a screenshot of the Bitcoin mine. Okay, so for $500, I bought 3,000 gigahash. That's just the processing speed of the processor, the computer. And what I did very aggressively for the first 5, 6 months, 7 months, is I took 100% of the Bitcoin it was mining and I bought more equipment. I repurchased or compounded the equipment that I owned. I recapitalized. And so my gigahash went from 3,000 gigahash to 8,675 gigahash. I've almost tripled the mining equipment I own. I took $500 worth of equipment and I've almost made it $1,500 worth of equipment. That's because I have a 3 to 5 year plan. I see the value of owning lots of equipment. I see the value of creating a large mining asset for where Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are going to go to in the future. Okay, very recently what I did is I changed my strategy slightly. I now only take 80% of what I mine and put it into equipment, and the other 20% I've been putting into a Bitcoin wallet, which you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there. Let's take a quick look at a multi-mine, $500 worth of a GPU mining unit that I bought at the same time. Now, I bought 18.5 mega hash. Okay, I took 100% of the Ethereum because I've got this machine mining Ethereum specifically. It can mine Ethereum, expand Zcash. It's up to you to obviously remote control wherever you are, the equipment that you own. Mine is 100% mining Ethereum at the moment. And for the first 7 months, I took 100% of the Ethereum that I mined and I bought more mining equipment. And so I increased my mega hash from 18.5 to 45.9. So I took $500 worth of equipment and I've almost made it $1,500 worth. And just recently I changed it as well, where only 80% is now going into equipment and 20% is going into a wallet. And so I've got about $30 worth of Ethereum sitting in my wallet currently. Now, that's fairly aggressive growth. And I want you to understand that's not because we're investors, we're not speculators, we're not traders. Quite simply, we own machinery that verifies transactions. We receive a fee for it, and you get to decide what your strategy with that fee will be. Our company as a whole has two very clear strategies to become one of the largest 3 mines on the blockchain by 2020. That's the short-term goal for the company. Now, the first strategy I've already hinted at. We call it the repurchase compounding strategy. And currently in place, a minimum of 35% of whatever you mine is taken and used to buy you more mining equipment. Think about it. If every individual miner within our company is compounding their mine at a minimum of 35%, then corporately, as a crowd mining facility, we are increasing our footprint. The more transactions we verify, the more fees we receive, the better for us in this industry. So the minimum compound is 35%. If you're a fan of compounding like I am, you can be more aggressive. You can do it 80, 20, or even 100%. That's up to you. Most people ask me, what can you do with the other 65 or the other 50 or 20, whatever your strategy is? Is cryptocurrency, is Bitcoin fairly liquid? Is it easy to spend this? My answer is yes. Depending on what country you're in, it's up to you to find a wallet facility, an exchange facility that works and allows you to move your cryptocurrencies back to fiat if you want to spend them locally, or find merchants and traders, find people who actually accept cryptocurrencies and obviously pay like that. Here in South Africa, we've got a wallet facility called Luno, and my bank seamlessly links to that. And so if ever I need to move my cryptos back into rands, I can do it within 24 hours. That's very simple. Now, I spoke about our company having 2 growth strategies to become one of the largest mines by 2020. The second strategy is quite simply called grow the mining community, i.e., let's get more people doing strategy 1. If we have more people who are mining, more people will be repurchasing, which means our mining capacity will grow, which means we will verify more transactions and therefore receive more fees. It's just basic maths. And it's worked. Guys, the company was not around in February 2016. It went live in March 2016. And in March 2018, we're already one of the largest mining pools globally. That's because the strategy works. So let's have a look at our second strategy. Now, most people who look at our company and hear this presentation, most people will only do strategy 1. They want to own a mining asset and they want to continue to be full-time lawyers, teachers, engineers, doctors, whatever, and that's absolutely fine. If that's you and you just want to own a mining asset and create that in your portfolio, awesome, well done. I would like to, for the next 4 minutes, talk to the 20% of people who look at this business and go, hey, I want to get involved in the second strategy as well. And the reason why it's worth getting involved is that we're incentivized to get involved in strategy 2. We're actually paid commissions. So I quickly want to show you where the commissions come from. I want to show you the transparency behind this. Very simply, of the $600 once-off fee that is paid, the registration fee, $150 of that are taken by the company and paid to the person who helped make that sale, helped get that person registered and up and running. That's like a sales commission. That means $450 worth of value actually going into the company's pocket to keep funding the company. Now, a second commission is also paid. That second commission is called a volume commission. And that commission is worked out on how much value is added to the company. So the $450 that is added to the company looks at that and matches it with 450 volume points. We call that CV. Anytime anyone's mine is busy running and the company is retaining a mining fee, that fee is going into the company's bank account. The company is matching that fee with dollars. And so if a mine is creating $2 worth of value for the company, the company matches that with 2 CV. If it's creating $3, 3 CV, and so on. And then the last place volume is added to the company is from people like me, Strategy 2 people. We pay $30 a month in order to market our company. Miners don't, but Strategy 2 people do. And the company recognizes that $30 once a month and matches it with 30 points. Now that's where all our points come from. Guys, if you're battling to understand the point system, I want you to think about frequent flyer miles. I want you to think of loyalty programs. If you're from South Africa and you know the Clicks shopping store, you'll know that every product on their shelf has points to it. And so when you spend 10 Rand or more, Clicks gives you 1 Rand back. Very, very similar. It's a volume-based loyalty program, and our company runs that too. Now, looking at just the volumes, you can start working out that there's a fair amount of money to be made. And here's why. Every 900 points that goes through our company matches with $50. And so when you grow your mining, your crowd mining community up to 100, looking at just the 450 CV that are coming in, that'll create about 50 cycles at $50 each, which is about $2,500. I've been working with the company now since February 2017. I've got just over 1,000 miners and Strategy 2 people within my crowd mining network. And so I've generated some volume commissions along the way. So guys, that's where our value or our money is made. One, through our product, which is mining. And second, if you're going to do Strategy 2, through volume, which are obviously a different set of commissions. But here are the facts about our company. We're not just a mining company. Remember I shared with you that our company started in the online gaming space? Well, they've still got those products. They're called Learning Galaxy and Esports Galaxy, and you can download them off of Play Store if you have Android app phones. The company is currently beta testing something called Auction Galaxy, which is an online auction site where people can spend their cryptos and buy bids and bid against each other for mining contracts, for Ethereum, for Bitcoin, etc. And the company is also currently beta testing and populating an online leadership and personal development program called Galaxy Growth. So the company is thinking bigger than just mining. It's thinking about how to create an ecosystem where people can take the cryptocurrency that they own and spend it and monetize it further. Here's the second fact. Our company has 2 proven growth strategies to achieve our short-term goal. These strategies are working. They've worked for the last 24, 25 months, and they'll continue to work because the maths is there. Guys, if you're going to get involved in the cryptocurrency space, if you're going to get involved in mining, know that there are some great companies out there, but you want to find a company whose value system is similar to yours, and secondly, who has a long-term growth strategy, a sustainable growth strategy. Our company has that. And then lastly, our company is not caught up in the Bitcoin gold rush mining mentality that a lot of companies are. Lifestyle Galaxy has identified the fact that blockchain's here to stay. It is changing the internet, and that we have an opportunity to be part of that change. Interesting fact, Google was one of the 4 companies that survived the dot-com burst. And they survived it because they bought lots and lots and lots of servers because the internet needed servers to retain data. Well, the internet is now also going to need processors to move and track the ownership of data. And that's what we're doing as a company. That should really excite you and make you feel safe. Guys, I hope tonight has been useful. I hope I've added some brushstrokes to some of the broad ones that the marketing videos would have done. I really do believe that there are 2 choices that you get to make in the next couple of days, couple of weeks. Don't leave this. Don't leave this for 6 months, 12 months. I think you'll just be kicking yourself. Do your due diligence, ask the tough questions, and then dip your toe in. No one has to sell a house, sell their kids' college funds. You can dip your toe in and see whether or not this company is what we say it is. Legitimate, fair, and here for the long run. So I think there are 2 choices. You can buy a contract and start mining. You can buy a contract and help us grow a mining community and secure an incredible residual income over time. So guys, I really hope that's been helpful. Please would you get together with the person who invited you onto this, who invited you to take a look at this. ask them the tough questions, do a real due diligence. And if there's a big monthly presentation and training happening in your area, I want to encourage you to get to that and get a real feel for how big our company is and a feel for the countries that we're working in. So I hope that has been helpful, and I really encourage you to have a good evening. Take care.